Hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience where I talk Ohio State Buckeyes, talking Buckeyes from the fans' point of view. So if you're liking it, please hit the like button, and if you're feeling what you're hearing, please subscribe. So let's get into it, cause a lot has happened since my last posting. A lot going on. Got a new commissioner, new offensive coordinator. C.J. Stroud, is he staying or going? We don't know. As of this recording, C.J. Stroud still has not declared. So we don't. It's got Ohio State fans on pins and needles. Is he going to declare or is he coming back for one more year? So let's talk about C.J. Stroud and whether he should stay or go. It's. I thought by now he would have declared for the NFL draft. But there's reasons for him to come back. There's some reason for him to come back. The stuff that folks are throwing out there, I don't think is ultimately the reason. They're throwing out the NIL money, which is good. They're throwing out, the draft stock or whatnot. Who's going to be QB number one, him or Bryce Young. Those might be some factors, but I don't think they are the determining factor because just the money and the draft stock, that's not going anywhere. Comes out this year, next year, he's going to get his money. This year, next year, he's going to be drafted. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. I don't think those are the determining factors in what's going through C.J. Stroud's head. And for those that have listened to him and heard him speak and on different occasions, you see he's a very humble young man, and I don't think the money is a big deal to him because he's getting it regardless. I don't think the draft position is big to him because he's going to get drafted. I don't think that's going to play into that or not. That's always going to be their draft position this year, next year, whether it's him being compared to Bryce Young. If he waits, what some folks are saying he's waiting on because he doesn't want to go in the same draft with Bryce Young. Whatever. But he's going to have the same comparisons next year. It's going to be, in my opinion, a different, a more deeper stable of quarterbacks coming out this year. I think this quarterback class next year is going to be stronger than the quarterback class this year. But ultimately, I don't think that's what's going through his mind on why he's waiting to make his declaration if he's going to the NFL or coming back. The money's going to get the money's always going to be there. Him being a first round pick, that's not changing. You know what he can't get back? What I think is really going on in his mind and what he's battling is he's never going to get another opportunity to face Michigan. He's going to go down as the only starting Ohio State quarterback to have never beaten Michigan, let alone have a winning record against them. Ever since Jim Tressel got here, every starting quarterback for Ohio State has either beaten Michigan or they got a winning record against Michigan. If he goes to the NFL, that's something he will never, ever have an opportunity to get back. He can get the money. He can get the draft position. He ain't never going to get another chance to beat Michigan. So I think that's what he's weighing his options on. Is it worth coming back for that one game against Michigan? I think that's what he's debating. Is it worth coming back to play an 11, 12 game season just to get that one more crack at Michigan? Because it's going to weigh on his legacy to be the only starting Ohio State quarterback in the last 20-something years not to beat Michigan. And he had two opportunities to do so, and he couldn't do it. And I think that weighs more on him than this NIL stuff they're talking about, why he may or may not come back. The draft stuff they're talking about, why he debating that. I know, no. I think he'd weigh in on this. Is it worth it to come back to beat Michigan? Because that's the one thing he cannot ever get back. He can get the money. He can still be a first-round draft pick. He ain't never getting another shot at Michigan if he declares and goes off to the NFL. And that's going to hang over his head. Athletes, that stuff hangs over your head, believe me. I still got high school rivalries. I wish I could go back and win. That's going to hang over his head. I don't. All the money, the draft position, that ain't never going to take that away. That he never beat Michigan, and I think that's what he's weighing his options on. Is it worth it to come back and beat Michigan? Because he played in the CFP. He didn't, he played in that game. He did well in that game, and that game probably increased his draft stock, his draft position. To me, I thought he was the better quarterback coming. I thought he was the best quarterback in the playoffs. I still think he's the best quarterback in the draft, even with Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young, but he's small in stature. He's not only small, but he has a small frame. And this is the NFL. You gotta be durable in the NFL, and I don't know if Bryce Young, as good as he is, can take some of the pounding that he may experience in NFL. I always go with the bigger quarterback as opposed to the smaller quarterback. If their skill sets are similar, which C.J. Stroud showed in that Georgia game, that he is mobile, he can use his legs to do stuff. That was the big factor in Bryce Young's favor, that he was mobile, he used his legs to do stuff. C.J. Stroud put a lot of that to rest in that Georgia game. So it's an interesting debate. Not knocking Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young. That's the one thing about these Dr. Pepper commercials. It sort of humanizes these guys. But I like that Bryce Young Dr. Pepper commercial. So I sort of like Bryce Young now just because of that. But with that said, I still think C.J. Stroud, he's more of the prototypical quarterback, size, strength, and whatnot for the NFL. So, and I think if for the folks making that argument, there's going to be Caleb Williams next year, who's more C.J. Stroud size. He still may not go number one if that's what you guys are thinking he's debating. Is his ego that egocentric where he needs to be the number one quarterback off the board? Me knowing him and not knowing him, but seeing his interviews and seeing how he spoke and handled himself, I don't think that is a dominating factor on whether he comes back or not, on where he gets drafted. I don't think he could care less. He's a first round pick. I think that's all that matters to me, though. I think he's weighing his options on is it worth it to come back to get that one last crack at Michigan. That's what he's weighing. So it's going to be interesting to see what his decision is regarding that, because I think that's what it is. Michigan or not. Everything else is there. The money's going to be there. Draft positions are going to be there. The one thing that's not going to be there is another crack at Michigan. I think that's what he's weighing his options. Is it worth it or not? Are we going to have the team capable of going up to Ann Arbor and beating Michigan at Michigan? That's what I think he's debating, if it's worth it or not. And if he stays, great. It puts us right at the top of the preseason rankings. We're already in the top 5 in a lot of the preseason rankings, but I think that's going to elevate us even more, having one of the top quarterbacks coming back. If he does come back, I do think it will affect Kyle McCord's decision moving forward. He's waited patiently. He thought it was going to be his time. Of course, he would have to fend off Devin Brown. That was going to be given to him, but I do think he was favored. Going into spring, he's going to be favored to be the quarterback coming out of the spring battle. Should C.J. Stroud go on and go off to the NFL. But if Stroud comes back, not only does Kyle McCord now have to fend off Devin Brown, but Lincoln Kienholz is going to be there. And he may not want to do that. He's a 5-star person who has just waited patiently. He thought it was going to be his time. If it turns out not to be that way, I would not be surprised at all if Kyle McCord tries to go someplace else and finish off his collegiate career. So it's going to be a little bit of ripple effect depending on what C.J. Stroud does. There's pluses and cons to both. So that'll be an interesting debate. I do think, though, it's not the NIL money. It's not the draft position. It's all about Michigan. Is it worth it to come back and play a 12, 13 game schedule, get that one crack at Michigan? That's my opinion. I think that's what he's weighing his option on. And he got the fan base on pins and needles, just watching every little thing he does. Now, I don't know if this person was being sarcastic or whatnot, but the Buckeye Nation, they're anxiously awaiting C.J. Stroud's decision. So it's going to be interesting to see. Something else new that we've been sort of anticipating ever since Kevin Wilson decided he was going to go and be the head coach, I believe, at Tulsa, was who was going to get promoted to the new offensive coordinator. It was a foregone. I think it was pretty much obvious it was going to be Brian Hartline. It would have been I don't say a travesty. It would have been really shocking if it wasn't Brian Hartline, given what he has done with that wide receiver room. I think it was just inevitable that Brian Hartline was going to be the new offensive coordinator, and we're going to see, because the success he has had at that position and with that position group has been phenomenal, probably the best on the Ohio State staff. And now we're going to see how that transitions into him actually calling plays potentially, because there's that rumor Ryan Day's looking to give up the play calling. You know, it's hard to tell someone to give up the play calling when they got the number one scoring offense, number one offense per yards. You know, it's hard, even though I do say, I come back to some of his play calls, does have your head scratching, but it's hard to argue with the results and number he's picked up since he's been here. It's just the offenses have been phenomenal. And if he feels he needs to relinquish that to get us to the next, over the hump, which is the next step in his coaching thing, he got to get over the hump. Then if he thinks going another route for another offensive coordinator, calling the plays, kudos to Ryan Day for making that decision and giving that up. So we'll see how that plays out. And we'll see how, if Hardline does step into that role, we'll see. It would be interesting to see how he does in that role, and if he's successful in that role, how long will he remain at Ohio State? That's just the thing. These coordinator positions, they come stepping stones to other gigs elsewhere. And for the Fire Ryan Day folks, if Hardline comes in and he's really successful and Day struggles, whatever you want to call, if he has a 3-loss season, God forbid. It's hard to say someone's struggling, but folks want to you got that minority out there that want to fire Ryan Day. But if they got something in place where Brian Hardline is the coach in waiting, it would be interesting if he's still here 3 to 5 years down the road. Once he gets some play calling under his belt, once he gets that coordinator experience under his belt, because folks are going to come calling for him. Not only for his recruiting prowess and the receivers, but just if that translates well into good play calling and the offense doesn't skip a beat, people are going to be knocking down his door for some head coaching gigs. I mean, I think he already got a couple sniffs this season to come on board at some other spot. So that'll be interesting to see how successful Hartline continues to be in his capacity as the wide receivers coach, bringing in the top flight receivers, and just see how that plays out moving forward. And speaking of Ryan Day, I'm not Ryan Day, but going back to Brian Hartline, and you look at the classes he's brought in, and you look at the results in the NFL, and then you see why the classes he keeps bringing in. Look what Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson have done this year alone. Just almost that alone. Look what Terry McLaurin's going on to do. Just the success that Ohio State receivers, the new wide receiver I don't think it's even a question. I mean, us and LSU were battling for a while, but I think Ohio State has clearly taken that role over as wide receiver The receivers we're bringing in, and the production they are doing it in the NFL. Olave and Wilson tore it up this year in the NFL. Even with like, the numbers don't lie. It's been plastered. Ohio State fans, they just been plastering all over the place what these two folks have done, and Wilson and Olave have done in the NFL. Even being injured all year, a lot of the main folks out there that follow this stuff, they still have Jackson Smith and Jigba as only the surefire number one receiver who could come into the NFL and be a number one receiver. Out of all these other receivers that folks been hyping this year in college, they still see Jackson Smith and Jigba as the only true person who could come in and be a number one receiver, and that's with being injured all year. Will he get drafted as the first receiver? Probably not, because of the injury stuff, but his draft grade has him as being the only true number one receiver out of this crop of receivers. So that's saying something again for the development that Heartline does with these guys and bringing them in and still elevating their game. And that's why we still get these monster recruiting classes at the right receiver position, because none of them are leaving. You would think after the haul we brought in last year, some of these guys would hit the transfer portal. Not to say some of them won't. The jury's still out on that, but I think we brought in 3 or 4 last year, and this year we're bringing in another good crop of wide receivers. And for the folks who get mad about, because they're saying, because we got the number 4 recruiting class, all the NIL issues aside, we still had the number 4 class. Then you got that yeah but group I talked about in my previous video. Yeah, but they all wide receivers. They're jacking up our average ranking. Yeah, but look what we're getting ready to lose. You know, we're probably going to lose Marvin this year. We're probably going to lose Emeka and Julian Fleming, who could have left, but he stayed for the very reason I just talked about. He wants to get developed. He could easily, Julian Fleming, I could easily see it going someplace else. But Fleming's coming back for now. For now, Julian Fleming's coming back. But fall in 2023, we're going to lose Marvin, Emeka, and Julian. And we're pretty much, I think we're going to lose all 3 of those guys to the draft, Fleming to graduation. So you're going to be happy we got a stocked receiver room, because we're going to be losing our top 3 receivers this year. And folks, and just think we would have had another Marvin Harrison in that Georgia game. That's what it was. Once Marvin got knocked out, we lost the game. Well, this is why we need to be as loaded as possible at that position. So I'm not mad at our receiver class. Keep bringing them in. Brandon Ennis said I could have gone someplace else and gotten me some more NIL money, but I want to come here and get developed. I want to get developed and go to the next level. You see some of these guys see the big picture. It's not always about the NIL money. It's not about that all the time. It's not about that all the time. A lot of folks are saying Hayden was going to move, because we got our running back room is stacked with. It's going to be healthy next year, especially with like the Mayans coming back. Henderson should be healthy, and oh by the way, Evan Pryor, who was out all year, he's going to be healthy. So when the Mark Fletcher kid bolted to Miami, I wasn't surprised. He saw the running back room and said, "I'm not going to get no playing time." Our running back room is stocked, loaded, and they should be healthy next year. You want to have a deep running back room, you need to have deep receivers. So again, the NIL stuff, the portals, that's not always about the money. Like Hayden's father posted something that, hey, it's not about the money, it's about the culture, the attitude, and being developed. That's why some folks choose to go to Ohio State or wherever it is they want to go. You got the Iowa lineman, just to highlight that. He said he's not going for the NIL money because he could have got more money at Iowa. But he's going to Alabama. And that's, I bring that up because you don't know what factors weigh into this stuff. Because Iowa is known for producing offensive linemen and tight ends. But what Iowa hasn't done lately is win. You saw their offense this year. Their offense was pathetic. So maybe homeboy wants to win. It ain't about the money. Maybe I want to win and go to have a meaningful bowl game. And I want to be on an offense that scores more than 10 points a game, or an offense where our defense doesn't outscore them. You don't know what factors go into this stuff. It's not always about the NIL money. So just to throw that out there, because I know a lot of folks are disappointed in how Ohio State's doing this NIL money. They keep saying we need to up our game on that. It's not always about the money, y'all. It's not always about the money. You gotta look at stuff on the individual basis, case by case basis. And like I've previously stated, I don't know how, looking at some of the dollar amounts that have been allegedly thrown around or allegedly getting thrown around, I just don't know how sustainable that's going to be in the future. I'm going to wait and see the mindset and see how this NIL stuff plays out, because I don't think it's sustainable at the way it's being handled currently with the dollar figures that are being allegedly thrown about. So, but that's it. Moving on to C.J. Stroud's decision, like you mentioned, does he think we can go up to Michigan and win? Well, we got a lot of folks coming back. Both our linebackers are coming back. Still Chambers made the announcement like literally right away. We got the announcement recently that Tommy Eichenberg is coming back. Oh, we already know Mayan's coming back. Trevian is coming back. Got the word that from K. Stover, he's coming back. Like I just mentioned, Julian Fleming saying he's coming back. For right now, all the other receivers in that room are coming back. And again, we're going to need them because there's a good chance we're going to lose Marvin, Emeka, and Fleming after the 2023 season. So you guys are going to be thankful. All you guys complaining about our receivers and how the amount of receivers we're bringing in as opposed to DBs or whatnot. You're going to be thankful we got a room stock full of receivers because we're about to lose our 3 starters after the 2023 season. But but we are taking some hits in the graduation thing. We're losing our tackles, and Whippler are losing our center. So with that, all eyes are going to be on Justin Fry. He sort of went under the radar this year. He went under the radar because we were all focused on Jim Knowles. What was Jim Knowles going to do with the defense? Justin Fry, he had a veteran group returning. No one gave Justin Fry much of a look. Well, we're going to be looking at him now because he done lost his 2 tackles and he's losing his center. What is he going to do with that offensive line? And a lot of folks are mad. We didn't get, bringing up the portal again, we didn't get anyone in the portal to be able to come here. We might get some when the portal opens back up, especially after some of the spring games. We'll see who's available. But that's why you recruit the way you recruit. We got 4 stars. We got a lot of 4 stars lined up ready to step in. Guys they're just lacking experience. The thought process, go to the portal, get someone with some starting experience to bring them in. This is Ohio State. We got 4 stars just waiting in the wings, and it's time for them to step up. If we don't get anyone in the portal, we got some guys that have waited their turn. It's time for them to step up. We do got a good crop of guys coming in, couple early enrollees coming in. So, Justin, we're gonna be looking at you. We gotta replace 3/5 of that starting offensive line. An All-American tackle projected to go in the first round, and Paris Johnson, DeJuan Jones, who was a 3-star by the way. Talking about development, we're talking about that development stuff here. So Justin Fry, gotta see what you can do. It is on you. Our eyes are on you, Justin Fry. A lot more than what they were last year when we were solely focused on what Jim knows what's going to do with the defense. Now we're going to be looking at you just a little bit more this year to see how that offensive line comes along. In particular, if Stroud does leave, we're going to need a good offensive line for whoever the quarterback may be. So a little more focus is going to be on Justin Fry this year. Another new development. Kevin Warren is off to the NFL. Speaking of going to the NFL, Kevin Warren already made his decision. He gone. He is gone. It was short. It was a brief stint here in the Big Ten, but I think he left his mark. He left his mark. I thought, given what was presented to him, given what the SEC did in nabbing Oklahoma and Texas, he left his mark. Be interesting to see how he does in the NFL. Be interesting what the Big Ten does moving forward for that position. A lot of talk out there for Gene Smith to go ahead and promote up there and become the new Big Ten person. But Kevin Warren, I thought he left his mark. He did, to me, short of bringing in Notre Dame to counter what the SEC did, I think he did the next best thing. I thought if we could have got Notre Dame, he probably could have made it harder pitch to bring in Notre Dame. And in doing so, I thought he should have tried a little bit harder to rattle the ACC. Now, I know they got these grants to write deals or whatever it's called. But folks get out of that all the time. I think Oklahoma, Texas got out of theirs. I think Maryland got out of theirs when they came to the Big Ten. There's ways of getting out of that stuff. So I thought if he could have really pushed it and fractured that ACC some, because that's Notre Dame's safety net. We could have fractured that some and brought Notre Dame in. Core Dog's world, I would have tried a little bit harder to break up that ACC stuff. Because, I mean, they sort of on the ropes, too. They on the ropes. If we could have went in and just laid the final blow by getting Notre Dame out of there, and you would have to do that by bringing some ACC teams with you, I would have made a pitch for Notre Dame. Of course, if we done this, we all got our realignment fantasies or whatnot. But in Court Dog Road have been to bring in Notre Dame, who was the big fish. I would have made this pitch. We would have went after North Carolina, Virginia, and you can't bring in North Carolina, and you would have to throw in a lifeline to Duke. We just would have. The only way you're getting Carolina, who I think is the best brand out of that, best brand that was available probably to get is North Carolina. Virginia, proximity-wise, AAU school. You bring them, then you bring Duke. Bolsters our basketball ID, and then Notre Dame. Fracture the ACC as much as possible, and we could have brought Notre Dame in that way. But since that didn't happen, Court Dog Road, that's what we would have did to bring in Notre Dame. But that wasn't happening. So I think he did the next best thing. You go out and get the next best football brand available, and that was USC. After Oklahoma and Texas was off the table, we couldn't bring in Notre Dame. You go get the next best brand, and that was USC. And we throw in UCLA too, which that's basketball. Basketball, SC got an uptick in their own basketball program. So I think he did the next best thing, geography aside. You gotta stay even with the SEC and what they were doing. They brought in two big name brands in Oklahoma and Texas. You go out there and you get you the best brands available, short of Notre Dame. Couldn't get Notre Dame, you go and get the next best two. SC's the next best one that was available. I didn't think he had it in him. A lot of folks aren't happy with the travel, expenditures, the geography of the whole thing, but got the Los Angeles market, and from all intents and purposes, they're not done. I still think they're going to try and make one last pitch to Notre Dame, because now you got the natural rivalry in SC here. SC Notre Dame natural rivalry, so we'll see. But I do think they're not going to stop. Kevin Warren intimated he wasn't going to stop, so we'll see if the next commissioner shares that viewpoint and see if he needs to expand, because he's going to do something to make his own footprint. The short time he was here, Kevin Warren made an imprint. He made an impact. So the next person is going to want to make an impact as well. So we'll see how that goes. And Gene Smith, should he get promoted up? We'll see. Under his tenure, Ohio State has dominated. A lot of folks don't like some of what Gene Smith has said and done, and particularly with some of his NIL statements. But since Ohio State has dominated under his tenure, so it's hard to complain about the job Gene Smith has done. So that's going to be interesting how that plays out. So we got the early spring game is approaching still, and it's going to be, who's it going to be? Stroud, McCord, Devin. We'll see how that plays out. April 15th is the spring game, I believe. So it's going to be one of the more interesting periods, I would say, in a couple years here at Ohio State, leading up to that spring game. Still got the February signing period. Are we going to get any more people in the portal or otherwise? Any late signees we're unaware of that they have reached out to? They just do. I do believe we still have some scholarship spots available. Are we going to get some more DBs? I don't know who's out there worth getting. Are we going to try bringing another running back? Or are we just going to wait? So it's going to be interesting to see how the February signing period plays out. So we'll see. That's it until we get some news, some confirmation from C.J. Stroud. I think that's football. That's what's waiting on in the football world of Buckeye Nation. What is C.J. Stroud going to do? But in the meantime, there is still some. Like I told you, I watched some of the other sports, some of the other periphery sports. You got our basketball, our men's team. They doing alright. Zed Key got hurt. Does this all our people get hurt? All our people get hurt. So we'll see how they overcome the Zed Key injury. But our ladies team is one to watch. Currently ranked number 3. They are killing it. Hopefully they get J.C. Sheldon. This is without J.C. Sheldon or Madison Green. Our top 2 point guards have gone down, and our Ohio State ladies have not missed a beat. A program best 18-0 start. So hopefully they can keep that going. Hopefully they can get J.C. back. So we will see. Jim Harbaugh talking about 2023 and how that's going to look. Is he still going to be there? With the violations and all, it's probably run-of-the-mill stuff. Probably nothing going to come of it, but we'll see. Is he going to be there in Ann Arbor when we go up there? Is he going to be another coach? Going to be some interesting times and stuff going on right now. More interesting than it's been in a while. So let's see how that plays out. And like the rest of you, just waiting on seeing what C.J. Stroud is going to do. Because I think it is going to have a ripple effect one way or another. Either Kyle McCord and Devin Brown will be gearing up for that spring QB battle, or Kyle McCord might be looking for somewhere else to go. So we'll see. We will see. But like always, if you're liking what you're hearing, hit the like button. What are your comments on if CJ stays or goes? If he stays, is McCord gone? Do you care if McCord leaves? Because we'll have Devin and Lincoln. Or should you think he should go on and opt out and go into the NFL now while he's hot? I think Cardell Jones missed out. He should have left while he was hot. He came back, and I think Urban Meyer handled that whole QB situation disastrously. So we'll see. C.J. Stroud's hot right now, so it'll be interesting to see if he comes back. But again, if you're feeling what you're hearing, please subscribe. If you're liking this segment and want to comment on anything, please like and or comment. And until next time, go Bucks, OHIO. I'm out.